All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. And thank you all so much for joining me for today's super fun episode. Today I had a chance to talk to Jenna Overbaugh, and is a person I haven't connected with for a while. I met her at the Denver conference. I think I mentioned that in the podcast episode, but she is very well known across the internet, and it was a fun time to just chat with her about what it means to recover from OCD, to live with OCD, and to kind of have that perspective shift that kind of lets you get to a place where recovery is possible. So it was a super fun conversation, so we're going to get into that. Typically, this is a question and answer based podcast. You can send me questions in about OCD and anxiety disorders, and again, anxiety spectrum stuff, right? So it's social anxiety, it's going to be generalized anxiety, it's going to be specific phobias. I know I've got that whole Phobia Friday series I did a little while back, so I should probably start rerunning those for funsies. Why not? But this is so you can send me a question. You go over to fearcastpodcast.com. You can send me a question by clicking on the submit a question link, or you can send me an audio question by clicking on the speech pipe button that's on the page. You can also send me a message over at Instagram. I am Fearcast Podcast over there, and you can send me a DM and send a little recording. Just press a little recording button on the DM. Send it over to me. I will listen to it, consider it, and likely put it up in a future episode. Audio questions go to the tippity top of the list. They jump the line. Because it's your voice, it's taken a little bit more risk to put your voice out there, and it makes it more interesting, so we want more of it. So if you have your questions, send them in. So let me tell you a little bit about Jenna, and then we'll get on to the podcast. So Jenna Overbaugh is a licensed professional counselor with over 15 years of experience specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. She has worked in residential treatment settings, providing care for some of the most severe and complex cases of OCD and anxiety in the world. Jenna is dedicated to making evidence-based strategies accessible by focusing on self-help tools and resources, empowering individuals to manage their symptoms and improve their quality of life. She is the author of an upcoming book called Making Peace with a Noisy Mind, a Radical Approach to Thriving with OCD and Anxiety, or Anxiety and Intrusive Thoughts, out in February of 2027. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Jenna Overbaugh. All right, Jenna Overbaugh. See, I did it the right time. Jenna Overbaugh, thank you so much for joining us for today for this podcast to talk about a really important subject. A really, I would say it's as we've discussed, it's hotly contested, it's hotly contested, but it probably shouldn't be. What is the outcome of treatment? What are we working towards? What does life, quote, after treatment look like? Does that sum up the topic of what we're going to be getting at today?
I think so. And I think we can identify, what that actually looks like, where people are probably going wrong and in the wrong direction, and hopefully give people some hope, because what I know is possible is so much more achievable and so much easier. I mean, it maybe is a little bit of a harder pill to swallow at first, but it's actually so much more manageable and so much more achievable than what these individuals are probably trying to do, which honestly probably results in them feeling like they're doing so much work and getting nowhere because the goals are all off. So we're going to fix that today.
We're going to fix every problem anybody ever has had. We're going to be discussing it. These are the answers today.
Going to be pretty good. I have notes. So
well, I'm here for it. Well, where should we start? Probably the beginning. What is we were talking just before this about kind of this pattern that you've seen, or kind of this thing that you've seen in the clients that you work with, and even in the life that you are leading, of what living with OCD looks like, and how we can view the outcome of treatment.
Right. So I tend to see trends happen with the people that I work with. It's really kind of crazy. I don't know how it is. I don't know what the mechanics of it are, but I just started to see a lot more people at the same time doing this thing where they would do the exposures, or they would resist the compulsion, or they would go out to dinner with their girlfriends, but then they would come right back and very kind of impatiently be like, Jenna, it's not working. I did it, but I was anxious the entire time, almost deflated and disappointed. And it's like, I don't know where we got off on the wrong foot here, where we are doing this work with a get rid of mentality versus kind of this acceptance mentality, this mentality of like, I'm just going to do the exposure with the intention of getting rid of my intrusive thought, or I'm going to do this ICBT exercise with the intention of getting rid of this anxiety. And I have experienced this stuff before personally. I've worked with in residential. So I've worked with people who are the most complicated, most severe. I've seen it really destroy lives. And I totally understand why one would prefer not to be anxious, or why one would prefer to do something without intrusive thoughts getting in the way. But I've really just been so fascinated lately. Like, if we can agree that anxiety is a naturally occurring human emotion, right? Which I think all of us could. If we could agree that anxiety is a human emotion, just like, anger or sadness, we can agree that intrusive thoughts are also a human experience, which we know from research. We know that from research. We've done research to show that all throughout the world, people endorse having these thoughts, right? If we know those two things, that anxiety and intrusive thoughts are naturally occurring human experiences, why are we treating their presence any differently than we do, say, headaches or like diarrhea or the sniffles, right?
Yeah.
And so I get so many people, especially, I'm sure you've dealt with it too, right? Like this sense of this concept of relapse and, oh my gosh, I'm spiraling again. And oh my gosh, I was doing really well and now I'm not. It's like, until we can get you to experience those human experiences, the same way that you would experience the sniffles or a cold or a flu, right? Like, oh my gosh, you don't do that when you get sick, right? It's uncomfortable, it's pleasant. And of course you would prefer to not have a cough. And of course you would prefer to not have a headache, but you allow it to be there, and you do what you do to take care of it in the moment. You're not doing anything to actually make it worse, but it's not this like, oh my gosh, it's back again type of experience. And that has just been so fascinating to me. And I've had a lot of really great progress kind of highlighting the differential for people, like how you're handling this resurgence of anxiety and how you're handling this resurgence of intrusive thoughts versus how you handle other naturally occurring human experiences. It's really fascinating. It's been really eye-opening for people.
Yeah, it absolutely. And and again, when we were talking about setting up like what topic we wanted to get after today, I think this is such an important conversation because it is this mindset that a lot of folks have when they start getting into treatment. I mean, they got into treatment because they're experiencing way too much anxiety, way too many intrusive thoughts, way too much of something, and doing a whole lot of stuff that they don't really want to do in the first place about all the stuff that they don't want to feel in the first place. So if we have it and we don't like it, we want to get rid of it. And I think therapists to a certain degree screw ourselves over and shoot ourselves in the foot in how we're to a certain degree selling it and selling what treatment looks like just by how we're talking about it. Because it's not super fun to say, hey, look, at the end of treatment, you're still going to be anxious. So, you should come and do this very torturous thing to continue to feel anxious.
No one wants to be in it for the long game. Like we're in the business, quote unquote, like of therapy and whatever, right? Like we're essentially having to actively teach these people and encourage these people to go against their human wiring. Humans are wired to want fast results. Humans are wired to want instant satisfaction and instant results versus this long-term gain. And so not only for them is it really remarkable that they have to do that, right? They have to overcome with their motivation, with their, values, and with what all the things that we teach them in treatment. They have to overcome that. We have to overcome that for them too, because I got a message this morning from someone on Instagram, and it was one of my followers saying like, haha, thought you would enjoy this, but I was blocked from the person. And I was like, I'm blocked. I can't possibly, I don't know what it is. Like, I have no idea what it is. Yeah. And apparently it was some creator talking about how you can get rid of OCD by like doing this detox. And I was just laughing. I'm like, of course they blocked me because they know that I would hate that. Like they know better than to let me see that because I hate that stuff. It's exactly what people want. And
snake oil
into the OCD loop. It feeds right into them wanting to get rid of it. It feeds right into them wanting to get rid of it fast. And that is just such an unconstructive and just a recipe for backfiring, because we really do need to be in this acceptance mentality. Again, we're not going to get rid of these things the same way that we can't get rid of the sniffles, the same way that we can't get rid of sadness. We wouldn't want to get rid of those things entirely. Like it would fundamentally change who we are, and it's just not possible. And so what is the most otherwise constructive thing that we can do? We can work on enjoying our life as much as possible despite these things. And that is totally possible for people.
Absolutely. There's going to be, buckle up, everybody. There's going to be a lot of Jenna and I just agreeing with each other and then high-fiving each other. So if you were looking for a debate and a fight, you're probably not going to get one out of this conversation. But yes, I've said, I can't tell you how many times I've said that. And anxiety is a naturally occurring human emotion. And I even argue it's a good thing to have. And I know that's not something that someone with a quote anxiety disorder wants to hear, but it's an adaptive thing. It's that getting the intrusive, violent thought about being run over by a car is the thing that causes us to just look left and right before we cross the street so that we don't get run over by a car. And it was super helpful. It's that thought about what if I fail this test that gets you to study a little bit. Very helpful. It's what we're talking about in having an anxiety disorder. My definition is it's a good thing, but it's happening too much. So it is out of order. It's a disorder. So it's happening way too much and way too often in places you ought not to have it. So we're trying to learn a new relationship with anxiety, but not to eliminate it. And just like you said, we're not going to eliminate anxiety, like we're not going to eliminate happiness or joy or love, because why would we want to get rid of those that are also wonderful?
So I wasn't even thinking of this, and all of my neurotic note taking and like, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk to Kevin about this, thinking about this, like as I'm going to take my dog for a walk. It never landed in my notes section, but this is so good. I would take it even a step further to say that I think when it comes to anything meaningful in life, we have to accept that anxiety is simply just probably going to be a part of it.
Yep.
I think of all the most meaningful things that I've done in my life, like having my son, now 8 years old. I think of the book that I'm writing. I think of like finally leaving my job and going private practice, like everything, moving across the country for my dream job. Every meaningful thing in my life has been equally as anxiety provoking for me. And that doesn't mean that it's not meaningful. If any, they're exactly alongside each other. And so I've come to have such a good relationship with anxiety. Like I know it's such a cliche metaphor, but it's truly like you're driving the bus, right? And we're so used to having anxiety drive the bus for us and determine when we make stops and determine what routes we take. But anxiety is very firmly, I'm okay with anxiety being there. Like I'm okay with it. Like I know I'm not going to get rid of it. I don't care to get rid of it, but it is so far in the back. It's loud, but it's so far in the back. It would never dictate my decisions. And in fact, there's a really amazing poet who I love. Her name is Josie Balka. She's on Instagram and TikTok. She has 2 amazing poetry books. I love poetry. And, she has a really amazing poem. She has several amazing poems about these themes of anxiety and about intrusive thoughts. And she has one poem essentially that basically says like, I hope you're anxious. And I'll try to get you the link so that you can find it, but it's beautiful. And it's written in such a way that it's like, I hope your life is full of so many meaningful things. I hope your life is full of opportunities for you to go outside of your comfort zone. I hope that your life is full of everything that you've wanted just within your grasp, that I hope you're anxious. And so ever since I've kind of reframed anxiety that way, like, wow, literally everything that's worthwhile in my life has been also in the same wavelength, the most anxiety provoking thing in my life. Like I really don't know if you could have one without the other. I really don't know. And this reminds me of a time I used to have really, really awful nightmares. And I was looking up medication, like just on Google at like 2:00 in the morning, as one does, right?
Naturally.
I don't know how legitimate this was, but I believe I did see a medication that you could take to eliminate all dreams. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like, because I also have really cool dreams.
Yeah.
I also have dreams. Like I had a dream once that I'm scuba diving with Taylor Swift, and I have dreams of me hanging out with like past relatives, and I have dreams of me hanging out with college friends that I've never seen before. So I was like, if I have to get rid of all of them, I'll keep the bad. I'll keep the bad. And that made me think a lot about emotions. It made me think a lot about anxiety. That's what so many people want. They want to just like turn it off. They want to go into their broken brain and they want to just like go back to before my brain was broken. And I totally get that experience. And I would challenge people to consider, we got to work on that relationship. It's instead of getting rid of, we have to work on our relationship to these things, when you can start to see that it's just a bystander to the things that are really, really meaningful for you in your life.
Yes.
And that you can't necessarily get rid of it completely because you would dull other aspects of yourself too. I just think that's the most fascinating thing ever. So I would take it a step further and say, not only is it evolutionarily beneficial,
yes,
I think it is going to be there in the most meaningful parts of your life.
You're 100% correct. I'm absolutely on board. And part of what, so ACT talks about that as well. It talks about how that's to do anything meaningful. It talks about to do anything meaningful requires difficulty.
For sure.
And all the examples you shared, yes, absolutely. Doing anything of value to you. Having a kid, the good parts about having a kid, the bad parts are awful. But moving across country for a job, going into private practice, all these terrifying things, but they're not driven because you wanted to punch yourself in the face with anxiety or difficulty. There was something meaningful at the other end of it. And that's why you put yourself through that, quote, torture or the difficulty or the hardship, whatever it might be, to do it. And anything of value is going to come with that difficulty. So absolutely, it's going to be hard. So I've even started having this perspective of I've told my clients that we want to look for places that are hard. And I've been doing this with myself. It's like, if I feel a bit of anxiety, I'm like, I know I have to go do that. If it scares me,
there's something there.
I know I have to go do it.
It's a muscle that we need to work, right? It's a muscle that we need to work. And I wouldn't endorse doing hard things just for the sake of doing it. Like, I don't need someone to go and lick a dumpster for no reason, but like, I do need you to be able to like do the things that you value and like live a really awesome life. And if fear is getting in the way of that, then absolutely, like, we need to work on that relationship.
Right. When I had Nathan Peterson on, we spoke about him earlier. We were talking about like kind of the overall theme of treatment is, do fewer compulsions, live more life.
Totally.
Like, however you can get to that shift in the ratio is kind of the outcome that we're shooting for. Now, I think we might have gotten a little off topic here, because we were talking a little bit about what the expectation is for treatment. I think we kind of sell it as, we're going to do exposure and response prevention. The outcome of exposure and response prevention is a reduction of symptoms, is the way that it is often sold.
A lot of times.
How would you shift that? What language would you use differently? In other words, why should people torture themselves through exposure and response prevention?
I'm with you. I don't really care how we get there. I think that exposure and response prevention, I come from a world where, again, I worked with residential level patients for 10 years. And so it was like very structured, and they had 5 sets of exposures that they needed to do 5 times a day for at least X amount of minutes. And they needed to track every one of their rituals and whether they submitted to them or resisted them. And I understand how structured it can be. And I think a lot of people need that. I also think at the opposite end of the spectrum, when I think of exposure and response prevention, I think of what you just said. I think of pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. I think of reducing your safety behaviors and reducing avoidance. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care how you get there. I don't care if you do it through CBT. I don't care if you do it through ERP. I don't care if you do it through ACT. I don't care if you mismatch all of them together. Those 3 things are so necessary. Like, I don't think that you can do anything else without doing those 3 things and still expect to see the results that you want to see. And so we can't also just do these things as check boxes. Like, okay, I'm going to push myself outside of my comfort zone because I'm just going to check it off and then I'm going to be done. Mm-hmm. I always tell people, like, you can't have treatment existing or like recovery and like the life that you're doing in recovery existing in one bubble, and then your life is a separate bubble. Like, they are one and the same. They're one and the same. And I hear a lot from people, like, exposures, like, they take so much time and treatment takes so much time. Like, no, this should be us. Like, I get it. Like, it does take time, but eventually, like, this is us adjusting how you're currently living your life so that it doesn't take as much time. Like, the compulsions are the work. And so it's really, I mean, it really does come down to this isn't a fast kind of situation. This is being willing to do the meaningful work. This is the willingness to do the identity kind of shifting work, not just like checking things off a box, right? And we have to, I use the word train. Like you really do have to train the same way that you would like in the gym, the same way that you would if you were strengthening actual physical muscles.
Yep.
I think that a lot of this does come down to like building mental muscles, building the mental muscle of what you pay attention to, building the mental muscle of what voice you listen to, building the mental muscle of, I'm not going to spend as much time ruminating over here. I'm aware that I'm ruminating. I'm going to pull my mental muscle over here instead to where it's more constructive.
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes a lot of training. I mean, that's where the inhibitory learning model comes in, right? Like you're building these new grooves. So to answer your question, I think the point of all of this is to train and to build those new learning pathways. Your brain has the ability to learn new information all the time. And so we need to just give it repetitions the same way that you would build physical repetitions in the gym and build physical strength in the gym. This is like taking yourself to the mental gym. And the same way that you're not going to like have huge, awesome defined biceps in a week, right? Like it's going to take time.
Yes, it's going to take time. And also to that end, and again, I feel like these are all, like, I use all these metaphors too. These are, it's like, if you have a particular part of your body that's uniquely, so if it's physical, maybe you say like your biceps are particularly weak for whatever stinking reason, that's just the way that your physique is. But you say, I want to get better at this. I want this part to be stronger. Great. It's going to feel harder to do that than all the other things in your life.
Right.
And as we were talking about, kind of some folks lean more anxious, some people lean more depressed, some people lean more, fill in the blank. And there are going to be these kind of themes, or, maybe CBT would call it the feared vulnerability, right? That are uniquely sensitive to that person. It's that muscle that needs building. So whatever we can do to lift that weight, let's go do that. But that's going to feel really hard. That's going to feel really uncomfortable. But whatever you have to do to lift that weight, let's go do that thing.
Right. And I think if we were to do that, if we were to, have this goal of, I want to have bigger biceps, or I want to have, whatever it is that you want, right? It's just easy to kind of visualize that.
Yeah.
If that was your goal, and every time you came home from the gym, you were like, oh my gosh, checking yourself in the mirror and like measuring your biceps in the mirror and checking it. And like, that would be so it would be so demoralizing, right? Like it would be so
wildly demotivational. Yeah.
It would be so not fun. It would not only turn into its own little compulsion, it would totally derail you. You would be impatient with the process. You would be frustrated. You wouldn't be excited to go to the gym the next day because it would be like, okay, well, what is this for? This isn't working. Like, we can't do that when it comes to anxiety treatment either. And that's what I see all the time. I see people focusing so much more on the outcome versus the process. And so I would want people really to hopefully lighten themselves of the pressure of like doing this stuff to feel better, doing this stuff to get rid of intrusive thoughts, doing this stuff to get rid of anxiety, and instead focus on the process, right? Like for the gym analogy, for all intents and purposes, like go because you know that it's good for you. Go because you know that the alternative is sitting on the couch and feeling like crap about yourself. Like, we have all the evidence in the world that OCD isn't working for you. So we might as well do something different that's a little bit more constructive. And it's okay to want the bigger biceps for this sake. It's okay to want to have less intrusive thoughts and to have less vivid intrusive thoughts and to have less anxiety. Like, I would want that for you too. But to focus on the outcome and totally like abandon the journey, as cliche as that sounds, it's going to turn into its own thing. And so I always try to encourage people, right? Like, really, it sounds really cliche. We say it all the time, but like, focus on the journey, not the outcome. And, focus on the process, not the outcome. And, really, I think one really practical way that people can do that is, instead of evaluating their success, especially on a day-to-day basis, based on how they feel, it's so dangerous to judge your progress based on how you feel.
That was the problem in the first place.
Right. Like, judge your progress based on what you're doing. Like, are you making more constructive choices? Are you doing more things the way that you want to be doing them? Is your life getting bigger? I always tell people, as your world gets bigger, OCD has no choice but to get smaller. Yeah. So instead of focusing on OCD getting smaller, if we focus instead on making our world bigger, OCD is by the byproduct of that is that OCD is going to have no choice but to get smaller anyway.
Right. It's going to get smaller. And I feel like that's one of those very few things that I'm going to get in trouble for this, that we can, I'll just say that we can promise. As you are living more of your life, OCD will take a smaller role in your life if you let it take a smaller role. Now, I think part of this is like to the point is, it's not to say that it's you're not making progress if it is gone, right? Because I love that phrase, and it's not, this isn't working. I always ask the question, well, what is working mean for you, and how do you know it's not working? If like to the extra example, we don't go to the gym and go, I'm going to get in shape tonight, right? If we do that, we're going to overwhelm ourselves. We're going to hurt our body. We're going to pull something, stretch something, break something, and then we're not going to go back to the gym. It's if we're trying to push so hard in facing our fears, it might be overwhelming, and then we just stop doing it. It's developing that slow and steady new relationship with anxiety and what the function it serves in your life, like physical fitness. We're developing a new relationship. We don't go to the gym once and we're like, did it, got it out of the way, now I'm in shape. It's developing this overall health. And for what reason? Why are we going to the gym? So that we can chase our kids around more effectively, so that we can, in my case, not throw my back out all the time, which I did recently again. For long-term listeners, my struggle with this. It's happened. So it's like, that's what we're trying to do. And it happens sometimes. I'm going to shift again. You were talking about this like perspective of, I was doing really well, and then I had maybe you didn't say it like this, I had a relapse, or I'm really struggling. Tell me about that perspective. How do you approach that within this mindset of developing a new perspective on anxiety?
I always try to tell my clients right off the bat before it even happens, right? Because I think there's actually research to show that like if you can anticipate something being difficult, it's experienced as less difficult when it actually happens. Like if you just kind of accept that something is going to happen, then it actually happens, and it's not actually perceived as that catastrophic. So I try to educate them in advance, like this is like, life is going to happen. Life is going to happen. And in fact, as a therapist, when I like would hear follow-ups from people and I would get the emails like, oh, hey, like Jenna, I've been doing great in the past month since therapy. Like haven't been anxious at all. I'm like, that's a red flag. Like, you must not be trying hard enough. Like I tell people this story all the time. I remember I went to grad school. And I went into grad school. I was a 4.0 student, like straight A's, like super like high achieving in terms of grades, right? So, I go to grad school and
real braggy over here, Jenna.
Well, just
oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. Go ahead.
It's okay. I had a rude awakening because they didn't want us to get all straight A's. They didn't want us to get 4.0s because they would basically say, like, if you have that time to be like a 4.0 student, like you're not doing enough research, you're not doing enough internship time, like you're not doing enough lab work, like you should not have enough time to be able to get straight A's. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So I think about that all the time though. Like if you are out there and you're not and you're like not feeling anxious, like you're not going after the job that you want. You're not like going after, like you're not pushing yourself to do the things you've always wanted to do. You're not taking chances. So like, I'm way more impressed and way more proud when someone comes to me and says like, oh my gosh, Jenna, like you'll never believe it. Like I was so anxious. Like I got asked out on a date the other day and like, I was so anxious to go, but like I got myself to go and like, I was so anxious, but I did it. Like that is music to my ears. That to me, as a therapist who's been doing this for so long, like that's progress to me versus someone who says like, oh yeah, Jenna, I've been doing really well. Like haven't really had any intrusive thoughts. I'm like, it's going to happen any day and you're going to be rocked because you are not prepared. Like your vision's off. You're focusing on the presence or the absence of anxiety versus like putting yourself out there and actually handling it and building capacity for it. So, I think that it just has so much more to do with like building your capacity for these things. I try to tell my clients in advance, like a lapse versus a relapse, right? Like a lapse is maybe when you're a couple steps behind and maybe you're giving into some compulsions, and that happens, you're not perfect. It's not supposed to be like you're hyper vigilant and monitoring of these compulsions every day for the rest of your life and not do anything, right?
Yeah.
I'm human, we're all human. But at the same time, like, it's not the presence of anxiety or the presence of intrusive thoughts that should send you into this alarmed state. It's what are you doing about it? Like, how are you responding to it? That is everything.
Right.
I made a story the other day about like how it's not about the intrusive thought that you have. It's about like what you do in the next 30 seconds. That like next 30 seconds, I think is so important.
It's so important.
And I've been thinking about that myself too, personally. Like, I forget again, because I'm not doing a compulsion about it, it kind of comes and it goes and I kind of forget about it. But there have been so many times lately. Oh, I talked about this too. I went to go get a drink of water from a water bottle the other day. And I looked at it and there was like a bunch of fuzzy black mold on it. It was objectively disgusting. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is disgusting. And I used to have a lot of anxiety about getting sick and like all that stuff. I mean, objectively, it's kind of a gross thing, but I found myself wanting to kind of review, like, when was the last time that I drank out of that? Like, did I drink out of it so far this morning? Did I drink out of it last night? Like, how long have I been drinking out of it? And when you get really good at this work, you can catch yourself. Like, I'm not going to try to figure that out. Like, I am just going to wash it. I'm going to do what's constructive. It's not constructive for me to continue to think about it.
Right.
Wash it, put it in the dishwasher, and I'm going to move forward. And it's like, it's not the first intrusive thought or the first trigger that happens. It's what happens in the next 30 seconds that it can be when a day just stays your day, or when you give your power over to OCD and anxiety.
Yeah. And so much of that, I love everything that you were saying there. And so much of that is also like that perspective that there are going to be moments in your day that will be anxiety provoking. You are talking about that, people who expect to have anxiety, fare better through the process. But I think it's not only do they anticipate, all right, this is going to be anxiety provoking, but also the willingness to then say, and I'm going to go feel it. And I'm going to allow myself to go feeling it.
Willingness is like one of the most fascinating concepts to me. We're going all over the place.
I told people to buckle up, man.
But I think that willingness is a huge part of the identity shift.
Yes.
Like, again, are you doing this stuff to just check off boxes because your therapist told you to do it? Or are you doing it because you are willing to make space as a human being in this world? The more and more I think about it, I think that OCD is like a crisis of human suck. Like, there are like universal human sucks that, like, as humans, we can't get away from, right? Like, I think about Dr. Elna Yadin's core fears, like the fear of dying and the fear of being uncomfortable forever and the fear of being alone forever and the fear of suffering forever. Like, those are objective human sucks.
They suck, and we can't unsuck them. They just suck.
Like, you could always die. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And it's like, I have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. My husband upstairs has to deal with that. My neighbor walking her dog has to deal with that. Like, OCD is like a crisis of these human sucks. And I think like once we start to build a willingness as humans to like feel what we should feel as humans and like be open to the suckiness that is the human experience. I think like Jonathan Grayson has this concept of the second best life. And I really, really love that. This idea that, OCD kind of sells us on this pipe dream and this fantasy, like that we can have this fantasy where we're never going to die, or we can have this fantasy where we're never going to be alone forever, or have this fantasy where we're never going to die alone, or have this fantasy where we're never going to have to suffer. And like, we just do these compulsions to kind of chase this fantasy, when in reality, once we can accept what he calls as our second best life, it sucks, right? And there's like this mourning and this grieving that can take place. But once you're willing to allow that and no longer chase this fantasy that's not even plausible in the first place, it gets so much better. So that to me would be recovery for someone when they are developing the willingness to relinquish that pipe dream and allow that second best life. And often Jonathan Grayson would say, like, that second best life is so much better than the fantasy because it's actually achievable.
And I think, and more important to that, secondarily important, it's also important, it's the life that you actually have. It
Right.
lets you live the life that you're actually in, rather than constantly being angry and fighting for the life that you are theoretically supposed to have that you don't.
Mhm.
That, it's me arguing that the weather is supposed to be something different than what it currently is. It is this weather today. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be, but no one else does. I don't know if all of it's going to go away tomorrow, but it doesn't matter. We're in this life for right now.
Yeah.
So let's embrace that one and then go get the life that you would like as best you possibly can.
Mhm. And alongside the identity shifts here too, I think so many people spend so much time like preparing for the big exposures and
Mm-hmm.
preparing for like the therapy assignments that we give them and preparing for the big 10 out of 10 on their hierarchy. And it's
Yeah.
like recovery and your recovery, right? Like your treatment goals, your treatment gains are so much more determined by what happens in between those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Than like these big scary moments that you're often like dreaming about or fearing, right? Like it's
Yes.
in these day-to-day moments, it's in these day-to-day shifts of like, I don't know, the other day, one of the people that I was working with was talking about how like she really struggles with relationship OCD. And we've done all
Yeah.
the work to talk about how like it's not about your relationship, it's about the core fears and uncertainty and da-da.
Yep.
And she's like, I had to make a phone call to someone and like essentially it was like a customer support thing and she needed to like give negative feedback. And she's like, I never thought that that was related to my anxiety whatsoever, but like I'm realizing that this is so much more than just about my relationship. It's about like my capacity to do difficult things. And that was just such a cool moment. That was such a cool moment that like, it's not about what you think it's about. It's not about your theme. It's not about your subtype. It's not about like the contamination being the problem. This is about you and how you're showing up in your life and you listening to the voice that's not serving you. Like that is what this is about. And that's the identity shift. And if you can work on training that mentality, if you can work on training that mindset, it doesn't matter what in 5 weeks from now, when something bad happens or a new intrusive thought pops up or something objectively awful happens in your life, like a job loss, like you're building capacity. So
Yes.
we break the OCD like whack-a-mole problem, right? Because
Yes.
you're building capacity and that capacity is going to stay with you forever. And so it really is worth it. It's not as fast. It's not like a pill that you get crazy big biceps, but like when you know actually how to build big biceps, no matter what, that's going to last you forever. And it's so much more meaningful that way.
Yes. Yeah. And I've listeners to this podcast have heard me say a million times, OCD isn't really a thought problem. It's a feeling problem. It's not about the content of the obsession. It's about the feeling that you have about that thing.
Right.
So if we can make space for that feeling and everything you were saying, I'm thinking of Kimberly Quinlan's tagline. Today's a good day to do hard things. I'm probably messing that up, but it's like, yeah. What's that?
I think she'd be proud. I think you did it.
There we go. But it's like, can I go and do this hard thing? So whatever the hard thing is at the moment, that's part of that perspective shift, I think. Can I do the thing and face the thing that feels uncomfortable? Because that phone call example you were talking about, it wasn't the relationship with her partner.
Right.
It was her momentary interaction with some other person that in another world, it would have been felt overwhelming and anxiety provoking. But she said, I can step into this situation where this unwanted feeling state is about to occur. And I can do that. I'm thinking about like when COVID hit, a lot of the clients that I worked with were already doing so much better with the uncertainties that came around with COVID than my friends, my weirdo friends, because
like, we've been dealing with this forever.
What have we been talking about for all these years is how do we deal with uncertainty? And in the early days, think way back when, everybody, when the early days of COVID hit, nobody knew anything about anything. And so we were having to embrace uncertainty.
Right.
So we were already working on that muscle, and that muscle was just simply reapplied to a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's so many things in life that we're uncertain about. I think about this all the time. Like I think about all the time that I like use my debit card online, or all the times that I mean, my husband, I laugh all the time. As an example, like he's at work, but is he at work or is he cheating on me? I have no idea.
He's probably cheating on you at work.
Probably. And my son, every time I leave him out, like we have, like, again, the crisis of the human suck.
Yeah.
Right? crisis of the human suck. Every time I drop my kid off at school, like I don't know with 100% certainty whether or not he's going to die in a school shooting. Like it's not 50-50. I don't know what the probability is. And it certainly wouldn't be constructive for me to continue to evaluate that. Like
and try to figure it out.
Constructive. And so it's so much better on this side of things to make decisions based on like what's constructive and is this actually problem solving or is this ruminating and building capacity versus running away. And, one feeling that I think people forget about, they are so the feeling of the fear is so loud and the feeling of the distress is so loud. They forget like how good it's going to feel to do these things, like how good it's going to feel to get off the phone call that you thought you couldn't do. And like, oh my gosh, I freaking did it. That's the coolest feeling in the world to me. That feeling of, oh my gosh, I freaking did it. I talk to my 8-year-old about this all the time. Like he gets frustrated with his math homework or he'll get frustrated reading a book. And I'm like, dude, I get it. Like that, it's so frustrating for you right now, but that feeling of like finishing the puzzle or that feeling of like cracking this math problem, you don't get that feeling if it's easy. You don't get that feeling of pride and accomplishment and holy cow, I can't believe I freaking did that.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
What has to precede that is frustration and discomfort and this doubt. And you have to keep pushing through that. And that's not just an OCD thing. That's like a human thing.
It's a human thing. To circle back to that example you had about like people who are working themselves up about their 10s on their hierarchy. The 10s on the hierarchy are things that we aren't encountering, and likely speaking, for most people's hierarchy, they're not encountering that on a daily basis.
Right.
But I think it's emblematic of progress. It's I can do that. I can have that thought. I can go to that place. I can do whatever that action is. And that helps build that confidence for all the other stuff that's in the everyday life.
For sure.
I was able to do this. And man, if I could do that, I could make this phone call.
I'll never forget my first, and I like moved across the country for it. Yeah. I was asked to come here and help develop the residential OCD and anxiety program in Wisconsin. And at the time, it was only Rogers and McLean. That was like 10 years ago. Yeah. And I'll never forget. It was my first day on the job. I came here so soon after graduation that I should have been walking for graduation the day that I started. That's how fast I was to get here. And I'll never forget walking through this residential unit. And you have to understand, like, I know you understand, but the listeners probably don't know what residential is. Imagine a big mansion with 28 of the most severe, most debilitating cases of OCD and anxiety in the world, right? So like they live there 24/7. They have staff working with them one-on-one. It's really intense, but I'll never forget. I walked through and I have my little clipboard and my little purse and I'm like so nerdy, so excited. And I see this guy laying face down on the bathroom floor right by the toilet. And I'm like, whoa,
totally
that's crazy. And then I'm like geeking out about it because I'm like this OCD therapist nerd and I'm like so excited to be here. And then I go into the office to like introduce myself to people. And this other resident comes in and she asks me to have the bottom of my shoe and she licks it. And I'm like, I've literally been here for 30 minutes. This is insane. And at the time, I could go, this would be like a whole nother episode about like those insane exposures. Yeah. Exposure therapy does not have to be like that. But
it can be. But it can be. And for some people, it should be, but not for everybody.
Think about the willingness of those people. Think about like those individuals, what they were able to do in their everyday life because they did that stuff. Think about the message that they sent to their brains and to their bodies. Like, talk about sending messages. I hate the concept of like your nervous system. Like, think about the messages that you're sending to your brain and your body when you do stuff like that. Like that you are safe and that you are living and that this is okay. Like, think about it. Right. So it's crazy. That's what it's about. I know that's probably a big jump for people who are maybe just in the beginning of their journey. You don't need to go that far tomorrow. That's not what we're asking of you, but that willingness really sends a really powerful message to your brain, and it's possible.
And that really speaks to I think a lot of what you're talking about there is really found in the inhibitory learning model, which I think is great. It's that safety. I know safety is kind of a 4-letter word around here. And we're proving that it's, quote, safe.
Or
It's
maybe
like,
that it's just not worth the relevance that you've given it.
that's the other way to say it. It's that it's not worth the relevance. We all know that we could die in a car wreck today. We all know that when we fly to the conference this year, except for you, Jenna, unfortunately, that we could die in that car. We could die in a plane crash. We could, but it's, quote, safe. It's probably not going to happen. But the more important thing is, am I willing to do this thing that has the potential to lick someone's shoe? It's a day just another day at the office for us, but it's something that is, for that person, it is terrifying. That might be their tens, because it is so close to that thing that they're afraid of. But again, boy, if they could do that, could they go to their office and open the doors and use pens,
gonna have an umbrella
just
effect
live their
for
life?
so many other things. I mean, think about it. If this person was afraid of like putting his hand on a public restroom,
Yeah.
not anymore. So
Yeah. And there's that, there are going to be these different approaches. And we've talked about those. It's like, the real extreme kind of TV worthy, sexy exposures of doing something crazy versus the everyday exposures that involve you living your life. Is it what's more important to you? And there's going to be room for both of these things. And for, just to your point, folks who are just starting out, when you're thinking about, gosh, I want to just go live my life. Yes, all of those exposures are on the way to that, and that may be what we might call an Olympic level exposure or graduation level exposure, whatever it might be. But I think this might be a good introduction to like what that looks like, because at the end, quote, end of treatment, it does not mean that anxiety will be zero or that they love licking shoes. It might unlock something for them. That is possible, but it may be something where they go like, I can do this. It still makes me feel a little uncomfortable. You and I talked a little bit about how you've gone through treatment. You've done all the things. You said even on that, on that Y box, the 0 to 40 scale, you might be subclinical. You said that you are subclinical. Great. But that doesn't mean you're at a 0.
no.
Right.
I don't know that I ever would be. I don't know that with my brain, I don't know that it ever would be. I don't know that I would want it to be. I've just gotten such a great relationship with my brain now and with anxiety in general. Like, I truly think another one of my favorite analogies that I use is like a crayon box. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this, but
go on.
I proudly am like part owner of like 4 or 5 crayon tattoos throughout the United States at this moment from past therapy clients because of this analogy. So this is how I think about it.
Lay it on me. I'm interested.
I think that, and this I think might single-handedly help some people make that identity shift, because instead of trying to get rid of, if you can start to see your brain a little bit differently, maybe you won't be so eager to get rid of these experiences. Maybe you will find space and willingness to kind of let them be there a little bit. So I believe that OCD is kind of like a kind of like creativity of thought. And so I always give the analogy of how I think a lot of times people who don't have OCD or like these types of thinking, have kind of like an 8-pack box of crayons.
Uh-huh.
My husband is a great example of this. He doesn't go into too many rabbit holes. When we got our house, we bought a new house a year ago. He's like, we're just buying a house. Like, that's literally all it is. We're just buying a house. Me, on the other hand, I have what I would say like a 250 count box of crayons. There's like a sharpener in the back, and there's like every color that you can imagine.
Good one.
I'm like, but what about this house? And like, there's memories in this house. And what about like if a college kid moves into this house and they're like mean to the house, and like rabbit holes, right? And it's so again, not in terms of like intelligence, not in terms of anything else. I'm thinking just in terms of creativity of thought. There are some people who have like an 8-pack box of crayons, and some people who have more of like the 250 count box of crayons. Yeah. The OCD brain is like the 250 count box of crayons. We tend to focus a lot on wanting to get rid of the dark, scary colors, like the bloody reds and the deep, dark, scary blacks and the sad blues and the disgusting greens.
Get rid of them.
We also forget about is there are often a lot of times really cool colors like lavender and Purple Mountain's Majesty and pink flamingo and chlorine blue and
mac and cheese.
Macaroni and cheese. I was literally just going to say that. Why do we all remember the macaroni and cheese one?
It's the tastiest one.
Glitter colors and metallic colors. I truly think that, again, back to my nightmare example that I had given previously, like if I were to get rid of those colors, I would also have to be willing to sacrifice some other things too. So I think about this a lot, like my tendency to want to solve problems. I'm so good at puzzles. Like my husband laughs at me because at night to relax, I'm doing puzzles and like logic puzzles and Myrtles with my 8-year-old before bed. And he's like, that's literally the most anti-sleep thing that I could possibly imagine. But I love puzzles. I love figuring things out. But I focus that energy on things that aren't constructive. That's where I get into trouble. If I can focus that problem-solving nature and that puzzle orientation and loving into something productive and more constructive, like puzzles with my son, it's a beautiful thing to have.
Yes.
I also have the tendency to remember literally everything that has ever happened to me. And so when it's spent non-constructively, I can think about horrible things that I have said in the past that I feel really guilty about. I can think of weird facial expressions that a friend might have said 5 or 10 years ago that I'm still replaying on repeat. Or I can use that quality to come up with the best birthday party for my friend, because I remember 2 years ago that she said that she always wanted a picnic, even though she has a winter birthday and she loves picnics, but she always goes to bed before 10. And so I'm the person to make sure that for her birthday, we have an indoor picnic rave. So I'm just of the opinion that, you know, if we can start to see these qualities that we have, like the perseveration and the hyperfixation on certain things and the love of solving problems and wanting closure, like those are all not terrible qualities as long as they're used constructively.
I call this the OCD superpower.
Sometimes.
But to the perhaps overall theme of what we've been talking about is this perspective shift.
Yes.
Are you demonizing and hating that part of your brain that can go down rabbit holes as deep as they can possibly go, that can be used for evil, or that power can be used for good? And that memory of, my friend said this thing that one time 5 years ago, and it was just tucked in my brain, but I'm going to use that skill, that ability, and just that natural function of your brain to go do this other thing.
Again, I love that you said like the natural function of your brain. Like if we can start to see this as like a natural function of your brain, but learn like, hey, that's not constructive. Not choosing to spend my time over here. This is constructive. I'm going to choose to spend my time over here. It's going to make the big, like that is going to help you make those identity shifts instead of this, like, I got to get rid of. If you can witness this as like a natural feature of your brain, and it's where you're going wrong is not in the feature of that brain, not in the creativity of the thought. I've always been fascinated. Like Stephen King has a lot of the thoughts that people with OCD have,
but he sells them for $1 million a piece, whereas our clients hate them. Really
badass book.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, like our clients and our people are over here like on Reddit threads listening to like Chad 1825, right? Like from a thread 10 years ago. Like it's literally it's truly just learning to see these like natural processes in your brain through a totally different lens and using them in ways that are more constructive.
Right. And there's so much, and part of the way to do that, one of the necessities is one, accepting that is part of your brain, not a bad part, a part. Right. And then having compassion for the fact that it is there instead of beating yourself up or judging yourself for it. I have an article that I've sent to every stinking client at some point. It's a John Hirschfeld article. It's something like the title is something like, I think it's having no cure for OCD is the cure.
I love that.
And it's this, and he talks about it as like, he has this expectation that as he's living his life, he's going to get these thoughts, and he just anticipates that it's going to be there. And he has that perspective where he talks about that some days it's going to catch him. Back to that relapse mindset. It's like, yeah, some days it's going to catch him. And his one of the lines I think is like, but I'll get you tomorrow.
Yeah. I love, someone mentioned this earlier to me, like, how cool is it that you never run out of chances to try again? And like, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is it that we never get, especially when it comes to OCD and anxiety, right? Like you never run out of opportunities to try again. You never run out of opportunities to like get back on the horse, to pick up the hat from the floor and put it back on. Like you never run out of opportunities. I know it doesn't always feel that way. It can feel exhausting and like, what's the point? But I mean, truly, when it comes to OCD, it really truly depends on your participation to thrive. And so you never really run out of chances to try again. And I think that's really beautiful.
And a real tangible example for folks is, if you're going through treatment, you're just kind of getting started, especially for folks who are really just at the beginning end of this, let's say, I'm going to go with like the simplest example of the simplest, most like textbook example of like contamination. If your goal is to resist washing your hands and even doing like those small, like just wiping your shirt, washing, cleaning, whatever it might be, if and when you give into one of those things, it's not that you failed, you're not back at square one, it's you catch yourself, you acknowledge what you did, and then you can always recontaminate. Just get back into it and go, you know what? Yes, I did do whatever that thing was, or man, I used one more pump of sanitizer than I agreed to. Okay. Your bottom of your shoes are always there. Grab the bottom of your shoes and say, my hands feel like this now. And then you just keep on going. It's that second chance constantly. And you can find that for whatever that thing is that is the sticking point for you, or that weak muscle for you, or whatever analogy you would like to use.
Yeah.
Give yourself that second chance. You keep moving.
We would always, at residential, we would always have people, they would track like how often they gave into their compulsions, how often they resisted them. And then for like the crew who was really into this exercise, we gave them like a third column of undoing. And ideally, any time that they submitted to a ritual, that number should equal the amount of times that they undid it. So to your point, like if you wash your hands, just go and do it. If you ask for reassurance, well, maybe that person doesn't actually know what they're talking about. There's always a way to bring yourself back to that place of like, I don't really know, and I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, what we're back to this theme of like, it's developing this recovery mindset, and it takes this perspective shift of, I'm going to get rid of this anxiety, and I'm going to, getting back to that, like, what is it? The second tier life, the silver medal life, second best life. Yeah. It's this, like, instead of saying, well, I'm going to go to this treatment so that I can get my gold medal life, or the first tier, I've screwed it up already, that best life, I'm going to have this second best life. And that's a great life. And more importantly, that's the life that is to be had. Mm-hmm. But it involves letting go of that.
Yeah, which is scary because we want the control, right? Like we want to plan things.
Yeah.
It feels scary to kind of let that go. But I mean, back to really classic metaphors, right? Like the finger trap, the Chinese finger trap, the quicksand.
Love
like
it.
That is all part of it.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, with all these different things, what are some, if I could ask, what were some perspective shifts that you had in your journey? Were there some?
The second best life one was a big one. So just personally, one of my fantasies was to try to identify for sure whether my son would die before me or not. And so I would do all the things, right? Like I know every TED Talk that's out there from like every mom who lost her son. Mm-hmm. Like I knew, and like you can get so kind of, I don't use this word lightly because I know it's triggering, but like you can kind of get in like a kind of like delusional way. Like you get so convinced that like if I just do one more compulsion, like I know no one else knows this information, but maybe I will know. And like
the special information, yeah.
It just feels like you're almost there. And when I heard about the concept of the second best life, I was like, whoa, it felt like someone punched me in the face, honestly. It felt like someone punched me in the face.
In a good way or a bad way?
Just like the wind, I just lost my breath. Like, oh my God, like that is such a fantasy. Like there's nothing that I can do to ever know that with 100%. There's no way that I could ever know that. Yeah. And as much as that sucked, it's like, whoa, okay, well, like, what am I going to do about that now? Like, what am I going to do about that? So I would say that was like a huge major moment for me in my just personal recovery. But, I think too, another thing that really made a big difference more from like the professional standpoint, I remember when I was getting into this work and I was like my first couple of days as a therapist, I remember I would go to like these staffing meetings and I would talk about like, oh yeah, Sandra has done this exposure and she's like 80% through her hierarchy and she's doing great and she's doing amazing. She's done this exposure. She's done this. She's done this. And I remember my boss at the time, Dr. Bradley Riemann, really well known in the OCD field. And he was like, well, what's her ritual prevention like? Like, how is she doing with resisting her compulsions? And I was like, oh yeah, like she's not resisting any of her compulsions. Like she can't resist washing her hands whatsoever. And he's like, well, that's why she's so far through her hierarchy. Like that's why she's doing all these exposures, is because she's like washing her hands right afterwards. And I was like, oh my God, that's so true. Like we focus so much on doing these scary things, and like exposures have become kind of like the sexy part, right? Like exposure therapy. And it's like, oh my God, it's actually so not about that. It's actually back to our
prevention life,
right? It's about like, what choices are you making when you are presented with that fear?
Yeah.
It's not just about doing the scary stuff. It's about how are you showing up when that scary stuff happens? So like, I think to me that really jolted me, because we talk so much about exposures and we talk so much about exposure therapy and like doing the hard stuff, but we don't actually focus on, at least we didn't when I was in school, right? Like we don't focus as much on like, okay, well, how are you actually showing up? Like what is actually your response to all of it? I think one practical thing here too that can really help people with this identity shift that we're talking about is just like paying attention to your language. I think agency is so important. One of the big things that I would always get on my clients about, and of course educate them on, is things like using language like I can't. Or I need to wash my hands right now, or I can't handle feeling anxious, or like I can't go the rest of the night without showering. Like we need to hammer out that type of language right away, because it sends such a important message to your brain that this stuff is happening to you, and that like someone's holding a gun to you and like making you do this stuff. And I get it. If I thought truly that OCD was like that, I too would feel hopeless. I too would feel like, what's the point? I too wouldn't want to do this stuff, because again, what's the point? Like if I can't handle it, if I can't go a day without washing my hands, if I need to ask for reassurance the same way that I need food or need water, like I'm screwed. And so we would ban that behavior right away. And we would change it to more agency filled and more independent filled language. Like I choose to do the ritual, or it's really hard for me to sit with that discomfort. So even little things like your language, I would want people to pay attention to. So watch out for language that you say to yourself or to other people, like I can't, or I need, or I have to. Try to eliminate that right off the bat. Be on the lookout for that today. Anyone who's listening, just be on the lookout for that language and try to interject it with like, I'm choosing to do the ritual, or I'm making the choice to do this because it's hard, or, you know, I'm having a hard time, something like that. It just makes a really big difference. And just prioritizing, right? Again, like instead of evaluating progress based on how you feel, instead of basing progress like, you know, oh, I went out to lunch with my girlfriends today, or I went on vacation with my son, or, you know, I raised my hand at work today, but I still feel so anxious. What if we switch that around and we say, instead of I raised my hand at work today, but I was really anxious, what if we just switch it and we say, I was really anxious, but I held up my hand at work today?
I was really anxious and I raised my hand. I was really anxious today and I still hung out with my friends.
I think all those little things, again, we talked about how like it's not just the big exposures that matter, it's the work that you do in between these big exposures that help determine like how you show up for those bigger exposures, and really make that identity shift happen. I think it's in these little moments, in these little micro moments, like changing your language and making sure, again, it's the and, like I was really anxious and I still did this thing. Those go a long way.
I've said that as like I'm making for me, in that it's like, all right, I know this is really hard, so I'm going to do it. A friend of mine is a professor at one of the local colleges. He was like, hey, would you do a guest lecture on OCD? It's for their master's level MFT class.
Nice.
Like they're not talking about OCD. I guarantee they're not talking about OCD. And lo and behold, they hadn't. So I told them all about it. But I was like, yeah, that makes me a little uncomfortable because I've never really done that before. So of course I'm going to say yes.
I just want to do it.
Somebody said, Chris Trons asked me to do one of his the IOCDF things, and I was like, that's terrifying. So of course I have to say yes to that. And it's not that I have to. Let me change my language. I got to do that. I got to do the things that was hard.
You value the There's a really good book, and I can't say that it's a good book, but I have had it on my list forever. Anti-Fragile.
I haven't read it either.
Anti-Fragile. It's been on my list. I can't endorse it one way or the other, but it's been on my list. It's just like, but that concept, right? Of like, I'm an Enneagram 8. I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram. I'm a big Enneagram person. I just love the Enneagram. Enneagram 8s, like, we don't like to be controlled. We don't like to like be inferior to anything. So like, I think it's just in me and my personality. Like, I don't like to lose. Like, I don't like to lose. If there's something out there that is difficult for me that I can't do, I want to figure out how to do it. Like, I am obnoxiously stubborn in that way. Like, I want to master it. If there's something that I can't do, I want to do it. So, and again, like, I think that
good.
If we can all just like, be fighting for that future self, right? Like, I know Kimberly Quinlan talks about like self-compassion is really just about like talking to yourself, how you would talk to your future self, right? Like, that is being compassionate, doing what your future self would want you to do. I think so much of us, we get caught up in like how we feel now and what we need to do now and what we want to do now, that we forget about like, do what's going to make you feel better 5 days from now, 5 weeks from now, 5 years from now, not what's going to make you feel better 5 seconds from now.
Yeah. What's the thing that you are like, what's the purpose for all this? Like, what's the life that you want to be living after all of this treatment is done, and go do that thing.
Right.
And as you kind of progressively start making those little choices, one thing after another, you start making those little choices, you find that you are living that life. Now, to the point about like, how do we know we're done with therapy, is like, no button pops out on us where it's like, ding, chicken's done. Like, we're not done with therapy. It would be so nice. You'd be like, oh, you did it. Congratulations. And, we're not going to schedule from here on out because you did it. It's kind of this, to a certain degree, a decision. I'm ready to go live my life. And I know that this safety net is here if I need to come back and call you again. Right. But I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to handle anxiety. No anxiety is going to be there. But most importantly, I know that I can make space for and handle and face discomfort when it comes my way. When, not if, when it comes my way.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I think that's great. And the sooner that we can relinquish this, like, oh yeah, it's going to be like this crossing the line moment that's very obvious, and it's going to actually be unfortunately much more anticlimactic than that. And it's going to happen. It's happen in these small, subtle moments where all of a sudden on a Tuesday, you're like, whoa, that totally would have bothered me like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Those are really cool moments.
You're like, holy crap, I was able to do this. So that's so that and it's kind of like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually unfortunate. I've experienced it, and so many people have experienced it too. Like, it's actually so anticlimactic when it happens. It's like, oh wow, that's really cool. Okay, on to the next thing. Like, yeah, this is a lifelong thing, and I think that's actually really cool when you think about it. I think that's actually really cool to be dedicated to like your self-improvement and to be willing to experience the human discomfort of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and there's no rush. There's no rush. Because if you're truly not waiting for anxiety to go away before you do X, Y, and Z, there's really no rush, because you can do whatever it is that you want to do and do whatever it is that you need to do. And you're just going to let anxiety, like, you're literally just going to let that emotion be there. And that's kind of what it's all about anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. So, all right. I feel like we've hit pretty much every point that we could possibly hit. Did you have anything else on your list that you wanted to hit?
No, I was really happy that we got to talk about, we talked about all the things. I'm really happy that we talked about like just how anxiety and meaningful stuff, they coincide. And like, I hope people are anxious. I hope people are anxious, and I hope that they live a life where they are taking risks and getting outside their comfort zone and not just distracting themselves by doom scrolling. Like, I hope that they're doing enough meaningful stuff with their life that things do get a little bit anxiety provoking, because they can handle that.
Man, if this podcast ever comes out with merch, I'm going to put something out that says, I hope you did something that made you anxious today.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, and if you can do that, awesome. So is there anything else that you want to tag on this? The one thing that you would tag on that would fix everybody's anxiety, what's that thing?
I think it would be the crayon analogy. The crayon analogy that we can start to think about these as these experiences and these thoughts as being like natural processes in your brain that are maybe just not used constructively. And if we could think less about getting rid of the dark colors and focus more on like the breadth of colors and the depth of thought that we have, and focus those natural processes in our brain towards things that are more functional, that bring us joy and that bring us values, I think we will allow those identity shifts to happen because we won't be so focused and so white knuckling on like, I have to get rid of anxiety. I have to get rid of intrusive thoughts. We can allow them to be there and just work towards slowly rebuilding a healthier relationship to those things instead.
I don't think I need to add anything else to that. Now, all right. So for listeners out there, where can they find more about you?
So I'm mostly on Instagram. So you can find me on Jenna.Overbaugh. But I have a website too, JennaOverbaughLPC.com. Those are kind of the places where I'm hanging out. I know I told you I'm coming out with a book in February. The crayon analogy is in there. And
awesome.
It is like referenced throughout the book. I love the crayon analogy so much. The book is actually really colorful because of that analogy. Like I wanted that to be part of it.
That's so wonderful.
So yeah, I hope you never look at crayon boxes the same. And it's okay to have that depth and breadth of colors. Like I really wouldn't change it any other way.
Love it. Well, go check out Jenna Overbaugh. Oh my gosh, I'm so afraid to say your last name because I'm going to mess it up. But I'm going to mess it up. I'm doing it, everybody. Face your fears. All right. Thank you so much for joining. I know we connected a while ago at a conference, and then I just see you on the Instagrams. So
on the Instagrams, that's where I am.
That's where she is. All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts on this. And I'll ask this. If listeners have questions about recovery, about OCD for you, would you be willing to jump back on and answer some questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course. I can't promise. My direct messages on Instagram are kind of crazy these days. I get like hundreds a day. So I can't promise that I can answer anything there, but I would love to come back.
Yes. If you have a question, send it over to me. Don't bother her. Send it over to me. I will gently reach out to her, and then we'll see if we can get her on the next 4 years. So we'll see how that works. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, and you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously.